Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's session. And in today's session, we will look into the lab programs 1 to 5. And these lab programs are based on whatever you learned in Module 1, HTML, CSS, Module 2, Advanced CSS, and JavaScript, and JavaScript functions until this 2.5 module, until the JavaScript events. And from forms, this is a server side. We can use it on the server side. So based on that, we can easily do the program 1 to 5. Okay, the program number 1 is write a JavaScript to design a simple calculator to perform the following operations: sum, product, difference, and quotient. As I told you, if you want to design whatever the way you want to design, you can follow that. They have not specified anything. What they want is a one simple calculator which will do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division operations. So how you want to present that on the HTML page, it is up to you. So the way I have done is, first I will show you the application. So this is program number 1. Okay, the name of the HTML is program 1 underscore calc.html. Now this is how it looks like. If you see here, basically we have a table here, and table has 4 rows. So there are in this table there are the 4 tr, okay, clearly visible. And if you see, there are 1, 2, 3, and 4 td data cells are there. Four data cells are there, and you can see the first row. It is spanning all the 4 columns or the 4 data cells: 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can easily see the span here is the complete all the 4 td. And on the next row, I have, this is a simple one label like text I have used. And if you see here, I can enter a any value. User can enter a value. So it is a text box. So input control I have used, and user is going to input the data. And second, this one is also, you can see it is a label: value 2, value 1, value 2, just to indicate what should be entered here. So again, another input text box. And in the third row, I have 4 buttons. Okay, in each of the td, I have created the input. The type is button. So this is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And on the fourth row, whatever is the operation, that result, this is a label. In the first td, it's a label. And the second td, it is also a input box, but it is disabled. Input box, it is disabled. Why I have disabled? I don't want user to enter it. I'm going to use this to display the answer. So that's why it is not enterable. It is disabled. Then this clear all, if you see here, the span is 2 tds, 2 cells. And if I click on clear all, it will clear the whatever the value that is given in the these 2 fields by the user. So first we will do simple testing. I will enter 10 and 5. First we will understand this, so that understanding code becomes very easy. I have entered 10 and 5. I will click on addition. You can see this is populated with the answer 10 plus 5. That answer is populated. So it is easily understood. When I am clicking on the addition, we are using the on click event. And when on click event is clicked, I'm calling some function. Okay, To that function I am passing this value, and it is adding, and it is repainting this particular element as a 15. Similarly, subtraction, when I click on the subtraction, 10 minus 5, 5. So again, on click event, I am passing this value, and I am indicating this click is coming from the subtraction. So this click should be different from this click. If I am calling the same function, maybe I will pass the some kind of a ID. Based on the ID, I will know whether I have to do the addition or subtraction. If I do the multiplication, 10 into 5, 50. If I do the division, 10 divided by 5, 2. And if I say clear all, I am making these values as 0. Okay, and this value as a space. So we will see that all those things now when we see the code. Okay, these are the things that are simple calculator will do. Let us say now, if 0 and 0 values are there, addition no problem, subtraction no problem, multiplication no problem. But if I try to do the division, 0 by 0, right? We want to handle this situation. We don't want to do 0 by 0. So you can see, if I click on the division, the second argument must be a non-zero for division. It is saying that the value 2, that is the second argument, should be non-zero. You cannot have a 0. Let us say I choose it as 10, then I say division, then it will do 0 by 10 is 0. That is perfectly all right. Now another use case is like right now I am the user, and I am entering only the numbers here. What if some user comes, he writes something like a q, okay, some character or a string he will enter, right? He will enter, and he will try to do addition. Enter valid number for value 1 and value 2. So until and unless you use the number, it won't accept it. Suppose just you say this as a, and you try to subtract, it will give this error. As long as it both values are numbers, it will give that error. If both values are numbers, then it will do the calculation. Okay, so this is the complete functionality. And this is the functional part. And for the how the each item should be displayed, what is the table width, what is the margin, what is the background color, all those is defined by the css. If you see here, all these are this it is right aligned, right? So all those controls are taken care by the css part. Now we will go to the code and HTML code, and we will try to understand how it is done. Okay, first is doc type. Doc type is HTML. Then we have the HTML. This is the beginning of the HTML. At the end, you will see the closing of the HTML. Okay, this is the closing HTML. Inside, I have two siblings. Head. Okay, head. Inside the head, I have the CSS script and JavaScript. So this is the beginning of the head, and this is the closing of the head. Then, so we will look into the head section little bit later. First, we will try to understand the structure of the HTML, how the structure comes up on the whatever you are seeing it on the browser, right? We'll try to understand this part first, HTML part. Then we'll go to the CSS. Then we'll go to the JavaScript. Inside the body, I have a table. So for to create this table, I will use the HTML table element. Inside that, how many rows are there? TR 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see here, this is the first TR, second TR, third TR, and fourth TR. So there are 4 rows. And in the first TR, what I have? I have just the heading simple calculator. Now you can say th. Okay, the first one is the th. Column span is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this first row will span across the 4. So that is how it looks like. It is covering the whole all the 4 columns. Column span is equal to 4. This is the beginning th element, this is the closing th element. Inside that, this is the content. I have simple calculator text. Then second row, In the second row, what we have, this content TD. This TD is just a one text content, that is value 1. First TD, I have just the content value 1. Whatever you want to put it here, you can put it here. Then second TD, inside a TR we will be having TD. This is the second TD, and for the second TD what I have is a input HTML element, input control I have, and it is type is a text. I'm going to take it as a text, then I'm going to parse it for the integer. So type is a text, and I have given a ID called value 1 because I need to identify this element, because I need to get the value, and initial value is set as 0. So you can see here, whenever I load the page, you can see initial value is 0. That initial value is coming from here, and this is the close of the input HTML element. Then closing TD, then again next TD is this value 2. Then next TD is one more input. The type is text. The ID I will give as a value 2 because I need to identify uniquely all the inputs. This is value 2 and initial value is 0. This is the second row. Okay, this is the end of the row. This is the beginning of the third row. This is beginning of the third row. In the third row, I have 4 cells. Okay, 4 TD, you can see 1 2 3 4, and inside each TD I have a button. Input type is equal to button, and value, when you say the value, it will show up on the button. Whatever the if you want to say just add, that is also fine. Whatever the value you want to put, you can put it. Addition, then id is given as add, and on click event, I'm using the on click event of this button, and on click I am calling a JavaScript function. The name of the function is calci, and I am passing one parameter, one argument, that is this dot id. So what happens is, when user clicks on this button, that button is a that is a HTML element that has a id. It is a the object that will be when accessed is a that will be stored in this. Okay, so if I say this dot id, it will send the add value. So on click, what happens, suppose if I click on the addition button, the calci function will be called with a text add. So that is how I will, in the function, I will know this click is coming from the addition button. Similarly, other buttons, input, second button, type button, value subtraction, id is different, sub. But when you are calling the function, you are passing the same id. Depending upon which button you click, the respective id will be sent to the this particular function. Next, input, one more button, multiplication, and id is mul, and then one more button I have, division, and id is div, and again on click event I'm calling the calci function and passing the id. Then that is the end of the third row. Then fourth row, last row, we have the first cell answer. This is just a text. Second one is a input of type text, which is disabled. And third td, it spans 2 columns and it has a button. You can see td, first td we have a text called answer, and next td I have a input, type is text, the id given is answer, value is space, and it is disabled. Okay, so you can see here it is disabled. Then next td is spanning 2 columns, so call span is equal to 2, and what we have is a button, input type button, value clear all. So that is what is shown on the button value. And on click I'm calling some other function, cls, that is for clearing all the values. I'm calling the cls. Now I hope you have understood the how the HTML is structured. Now second part is what, uh, how it is, how the style is given. The style is given using the css, and in this particular example, most of the example we have used embedded, embedded css style. Now Inside the head, I have title. You can see the title here, calculator. Then I have the style, the CSS. This is the CSS which is embedded. First one I have is a table, TD or TH. So if there is a HTML element table or TD or TH, I am going to apply this. So for all those elements, this style will be applied. And what is the style? I have border 1 pixel solid black. So this particular border is black 1 pixel and it is a solid line. Width, it is 50%. So this width is what? It is 50% of the parent. So parent is this particular window size, and 50% of that is the width of the table. Suppose if you want to experiment, just you can change it to 25 so that you will understand it. I made it as 25%, so it will shrink now. So you can see. So 50% is a decent size, decent width. So that is why I have specified. So whatever is your choice, you can do that. Then text align center. So all the text is aligned center. So you can see all the text. This is on the right hand side. We will see why it is on the right hand side. Background color dark gray. So you are seeing this table background color as a dark gray. If you want, you can change it to any color that you wish. Let us say you change it to yellow. Refresh. Okay, if you don't like that color, it is too bright, if you think, you can change light yellow. Okay, so whichever color you want, you can choose it. Then border collapse. So you remember when we talked about the HTML, so if we don't set this property as collapse, you will be seeing all the TD cells separate and all the rows will be separate. So if we say collapse, then all will collapse into a nice table structure. Then apart from a table has all these properties which is same for the TD and TH. Apart from this, table has one more property, margin auto. So what is a margin auto? So it will consider the margin automatically according to the whatever is available. So if I remove that property, by default this is left aligned. So just I will remove that. I will save it. Okay, it is left aligned. So when I say auto, automatically it will put it in the center, and whatever the empty spaces, this is the empty space, it will put it on the left as well as the right. You can see if I refresh, so the empty space is put on the left and the right hand side of the web page. Then for the input control, these are the input control, 1, 2 and 3 input control. What I want, text align right. So you can see here, this is aligned right. So if you make this as left, you can see, try to make lot of changes, experiment, that is how you are going to understand. So now it is gone to the left. So whichever way you want, you can specify, let it be right. So that is the end of the styling. And what I recommend is, most of the programs that we talk about, 1 to 5, it has table. And if you use one style, right, whatever this style, if you remember, memorize this property and remember this style, you can apply this style to all the programs. That is how the CSS part is taken care. And so you don't have to, so you can repeat the same styling. No programmer, no examiner will ask you to paint in a particular property. The problem statement is given, has no information about how it should be displayed, so you can use your own style. That is the styling part. Then comes the script, JavaScript. The JavaScript, it is inside the head section of the HTML. This is the beginning of the script. This is the first function. So this is the beginning of the function, this is the end of the function, and the name of the function is calc. And you remember, in case of a JavaScript, function need not return any type. So directly we can, if you want to define a function, you will say the function keyword, name of the function, and if you are passing any id, you will specify that parameter. Now we have a clicked id here. You remember where we are calling this function? We are calling this function from these four buttons on the on click event. 1 2 3 4, we are clicking this buttons, and on click event we are calling this function and passing respective id. So I will show you once again the html so that it is clear. On click we are calling the function, and if addition button is clicked, add is passed as a parameter. If subtraction is called, sub is passed as a parameter. Just remember, and respectively the other things. Now you can see here inside I have a variable declaration. In case of a javascript, we say var, then space, give the variable name val1 is equal to this inside part. First we will look this part. You must recognize this part. We have a DOM object, okay, and document is the root element, and using that DOM object I can access any html element which is on the DOM tree, sorry, on the html tree. So how to access that one? Using the DOM object, that is document dot get element by id, get element by id, and give the respective id. Okay, so this, until this part, what it will get, it will get this element, this html element it will get, and dot value. So whatever user has typed, suppose 12, it will get that 12 value here. Then I am using a javascript function parse float. So it is going to parse it. It will make sure that we are getting a proper value, proper number. So it will parse it, and that value will be given to the this variable. That value will be stored in this variable. Similarly, val2, you can see document dot get element id, and the id here is value 2, and we are getting dot value. So where is this id? If you remember, this is in the html. So I will show you. Go back to the html. This is the id value 1, that is this html element, and second, this value 2 id is this element. So that is how in script I am able to get those elements. Okay, and I'm parsing them. I will get those number, and then I will check is nan. Okay, is not a number. It will, if the value 1 is some kind of a text, then is nan and text, it will return true. It is not a number, yes, it is not a number. And if it is a number, this will return false. If it is a number, it will return false. And I have or means if any one of these two values is a text or a special character other than number, then this will become true. And if one of them is also, because I am using the or, it will show me an alert. You remember we gave the character, and it showed me the message as a alert, enter valid number for value 1 and value 2. So if I put here for the value 1, I give value a, and I click on addition. What happens now? When you click on the addition on click event, and it calls the calci function, and it passes the add. Okay, so if I click on here, okay, now we are getting enter valid number for value 1 and 2. What happened was, when I clicked on the addition, this function was called, and clicked id was add, and this was parsed. This value was a, and this value was 0, whatever is 0. Then when it came here, is not a number, and this is a, this is true. That is why it came here, and it is showing this pop-up window with, excuse me, a pop-up window with this text, enter valid number for value 1 and value 2. Now if, let us say, you give this as a 10 and this is 5, Then if I click on addition, so it is displaying 15. How that is happening? So again, I clicked on the addition. Now this clicked ID is add. It will come here, val1. Val1 you have given as 10. It will parse, and val1 will be 10. Val2 will be 5. Is nan 10 or is nan 5? Both are false. It will come here. This condition is false, it will come to the else. If clicked id is equal to add, yes, we have clicked on the addition button, it will come here. This is true. Again, document dot get element id, and id that we are passing is answer. So you can see this id get element by id, this id is answer. So what object we got? We got this object, this HTML element object we got, and dot value we are setting it as val1 plus val2. Okay, that is how we are seeing this as 15. It is repainting that value with this particular value. The same thing if I click on the subtraction. Now what happened? The subtraction buttons on click event triggered, and it called the calci function, and it sent the id as a sub. Okay, so same thing happens here. This value is 10, this value is 5. It will come here. This is false because this is 10, this is 5, right? This is 10, this is 5. This condition becomes false. It will come to the else. Clicked id is add. No, clicked id is not add. Again false. It will check the next as if clicked id is sub. Yes, clicked id is sub. Now what I will do, document dot get element by id, I get the answer. So I will get this object dot value, I will set val1 minus val2. Okay, similarly if I click on the multiplication, same thing happens. It will this condition will be false, this condition will be false. The clicked id would be mul. Then what I will do, document dot get element by id answer dot value is equal to multiplication, val1 into val2. If all these are incorrect, then the last option that I get is a division, isn't it? So if clicked id is equal to division, in case of a division, we have some scenario that is divide by 0. We want to check whether it is a divide by 0 situation. If the now I will click on the division, what happens? It will come here, clicked id is equal to div true. If val2 is equal to 0, in our case the val2 is 5, this condition is false. So it will come here, document dot get element by id, the id is answer dot value is equal to val1 divided by val2. Suppose this is 0. If I put 0, then I say division. Now it is giving me the second argument must be non-zero for division. Where I am getting that? So clicked id is a div, and it will come here, val2 is equal to 0. Yes, the value given by the user is 0. Then I get this alert, the second argument must be non-zero for division. Okay. So I have one more function. That is CLS, where we are calling that CLS. If you remember, the clear button. At the end, we have the clear button. When I click on this, on the on click event, I am calling the CLS. What it is doing? It is making val1 0, val2 0, and also the answer is equal to 0. So you can see clear all, on click I'm calling CLS. So we will see the CLS. In CLS, what? Document dot get element by id, value 1 dot value is equal to 0. Document dot get element by id, value 2 is equal to value 2, this that is the id dot value is equal to 0. And answer, for the answer I'm setting it as a space. Okay, that is the complete program. We covered all the scenarios, right? For entering the character I showed you, it will come here. So that is the complete functionality of the first program. Is there any questions? All right, I will move to the next program. If you have any questions, please put it. If you don't want to ask, just put it in the message so that I can answer. Next program. First, I will show you the problem statement. Then we will see the how it looks on the HTML. Then we will go back to the code. Second program, write a JavaScript that calculates the squares and cubes of the number from 0 to 10 and output HTML text that displays the result values in an HTML table format. So what we have to write? We have to write a script that will calculate square and cubes. So for the numbers 0 to and it's in the table format. It is table format. 10 in the first column, then next column should be squares. For example, 0, 1 square is 1, 2 square is 4, 5 square is 25, and so on. And the third one is the cubes. The first one is 0, second one is 1, the third one is 8, fourth one, so on. So it will show the cubes. That is what we have to show using the HTML table as well as the using the JavaScript. First, I will show you the output program to squares underscore cubes.html. So this is how it looks like. So then we will some of the styling you here the border is little thick, in is auto, and background color is light blue, so, and all the numbers are set and alignment is center. So some of those are the styling things. Okay, let us open the source code. Okay, so doc type is HTML. Then first here the HTML is the document HTML document is created dynamically. The first we will go with the styling. In the HTML we have the head. This is the beginning of the head. Okay, closing of the head. Everything is inside the head. Okay, and we have the title squares and cubes from 0 to 10. You can see the title squares and cubes from 0 to 10. That is the title. This is the style. This is the CSS rules that I have in the program. So align properly so that it is very easily readable. I saved it. This is for the table tr and td HTML element. I want to have this styling border solid black. Okay, so we did not specify the thickness. If you want to keep the same as this one, you can do that. So here it is 1 pixel, so that it is consistent for you. I will make it as 1 pixel. Okay, and width is 33%. The reason for that is we don't have lot many columns. 33% is good enough. Or if you want to have the same thing, you can make it as 50%. That is also fine. Okay, now the thickness is reduced and the width is increased. So maybe we'll keep it back 33%. Looks wise, that is better. That is 1/3 of the parent window. Then text align is center, border collapse, we set the property as collapse, and background color light blue. And if you want to keep the same set of properties as similar to the program one, you can do that. And table margin auto. So automatically it will set into the center and it will keep the empty space on the left hand side and the right hand side. I change it to 33%. That is the styling. Then we have the script. So the HTML document is created dynamically using the document object, that is the DOM object. We have document object document dot write. So it will create the HTML table dynamically. Inside the two double quotes, what I have is the HTML element. that is table. You can see table, this is the beginning of the table. Then I have table header, the column span is 3, and the what is the text I'm having, numbers from 0 to 10 with their squares and cubes, and closing the header element, that is th. That is what you are seeing here, numbers from 0 to 10 with their squares and cubes, that is coming from here. We have the table, then the first row is the table header. Okay, and now again document dot write, I have one more row tr. So this is the next row tr. This is the beginning of the tr, this is the closing of the tr. Inside this row, how many data cells I have? 1, 2 and 3. So I have 3 td. This is the first td, the content is number. Second td, the content is square. Third td, the content is cube. Those information is displayed on the second row, number, square, cube. Then what else we have? Okay, that is the first two pages. Now 0 to 10, these rows are created dynamically using a for loop. So for variable n is equal to 0, then n less than equal to 10. So it will go from 0 to 10. We want values, this values from 0 to 10. So it will go from 0 to 10 and increment every time with one value. And what, with every loop we are going to create one row. This row we are going to create. Document dot write, inside the parenthesis I have tr. Okay, this is the beginning of the tr, this is the closing of the tr. So this is the row we are creating now. td, first td, I concatenate with n value. What is the n value? 0. And next td, I am concatenate. Plus is concatenation. td is the string and it is concatenating n into n. So n into n, that is 0 into 0, 0. The third cell td, n into n into n. This is representative of a square of a number. This is representative of the cube of the number. And that row is closed. So on the first iteration, I get 0, 0, 0, and so on. When it goes to the next, n is 1, 1 is less than equal to 10, true, it will come inside tr, td, this is 1. Okay, next td, 1 into 1, next td, 1 into 1 into 1. So I get this. Then the value becomes 2. 2 less than equal to 10, true, it will come here. First td 2, second td 2 into 2, 4, third td 2 into 2 into 2, that is 8, that is the third, and so on. So when the value reaches 11, 11 less than equal to 10, false, then document dot write table. So that is how our html get displayed. If you want to change this value, let us say 20, so dynamically it will increase to the 20. So it will increase. This is very useful because many of the information that you display, for example, you are trying to find flight between Belgaum and Bangalore. So it will list a number of flights that are available in a table structure. So that information is dynamical. Suppose if you make the same search, Bangalore to Bombay, that list would be much bigger, right? So dynamically, some information which we are getting from the database, it will dynamically change, and according to that, we can change our structure here. So I will make it back as 10. And what is the another crude way of doing it? You can have a table, html static html element, create the table, with see, these are the 11 rows, 12, 13 trs. First is this one, column span is 3, and so on. So you manually put these values. That is not a recommended way of doing it, even though that is also forms a solution, but that is not a recommended way, and that is not a good way to have so much static values in a html page. Okay, this second program is very simple. Okay, if there are any question, let me know. All right. We'll go to the third program. Okay. A third program, write a JavaScript code that displays text, that is text growing. This is the text that we have to display, text growing with increasing font size in the interval of 100 millisecond. So this text should grow with the interval of 100 millisecond. Every 100 millisecond it should grow, and it should be in red color when the font size reaches 50 pt, 50 point. So it will grow from, let's say, 1 pt. Every 100 millisecond it will grow to 2 pt, next 100 millisecond 3 pt, and it will keep on growing until it becomes a 50 point. 50 point, it displays text shrinking. Once it reaches the 50 point, text is shrinking in blue. So then we have to change the text to text shrinking, which should be in the blue color. And then the font size decreases to 5 pt. From 50 pt it will reduce every 100 millisecond. It will be like 49, 48, 47, so on, until it becomes a 5 pt. That is the application. So what is the, once again, what is the problem statement? We have to create a HTML and a JavaScript code where text growing, this text should grow every 100 millisecond by 1 pt. Okay, and when it reaches the 50 pt, then it should display, and that color should be red, that font color should be red. And once it reaches the 50 pt, it should start displaying text shrinking, and it should be in the color blue color. And with every 100 millisecond it should start reducing, the size should reduce, and when it is reaches the 5 pt, that is end of our program. First I will show the HTML page and then we will discuss. This is the program 3, grow underscore string dot html. So you can see this is the red color, it reaches 50 pt, and then we have text shrinking. Okay, now end is, this is 5 pt and it has completed. So let me refresh once again. Initially text will grow with red color, reaches 50 pt, and then we have a text shrinking blue color which shrinks back to 5 pt. So let us see the code how this has been done. Okay, so this is the program. We have HTML. Inside that we have the head, and inside the head so inside the head I have the functions, and CSS is not so there is no much CSS. So we will look into the scripts, JavaScript functions. Before that, we will see the HTML part. So inside the HTML, I have two paragraphs. One is paragraph having a ID my p1, and I have a text hyphen growing. And second paragraph, I have ID my p2 and text shrinking. So if I don't have any kind of other JavaScript, if I display this one, you on the page you will see one text growing, and below that we will see text shrinking, nothing else. Now in the script we have made sure that this text will automatically grow, and that styling is applied dynamically. So that is how we don't have a static style here. The style will keep on changing. This is the beginning of the script. I have global variables. Variable size is equal to 10. Variable I is equal to 0. Variable my weight 1 is equal to set interval inside the bracket grow text comma 100 and semicolon. That is the end of the statement. What it will do? It's a door closed. 1 second. Hold on. So background noise is there is a lot of raining. If you are in Belgaum, you must be knowing that. I hope it is not causing any disturbance for you. Am I audible clearly, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have three variables. Okay, my weight one. This set interval is the this is the function that is available in the Windows object. What it will do is set interval. It will set a schedule. Okay, and what is that schedule? That schedule will run this function. This function is given here. The name of the function is given as the first parameter, and how frequently it will do it, this is the number. The second parameter is the frequency with which it will call this function. Okay, this is represented in the millisecond. 100 is the millisecond. So what this will do is it will set a schedule, and it will call this function every 100 millisecond. So when I do the set interval, the schedule is created every 100 millisecond. It will call this function. Okay, and when it calls that function, it will keep on doing that every 100 millisecond. And how to stop that? There are two ways to stop that continuous calling of this function. One is you close the window, right? Once you close the window, that will stop. Then there is another way. You, whatever is the reference that is for that schedule is stored in this my weight one variable. Passing that variable, you call another method called clear interval. Clear interval will take this reference and it will stop that repeated calling. I will repeat. My weight is equal to set interval. First parameter is grow text. Second parameter is the time, 100 millisecond. What this will do is, the minute you call the set interval method, it will create a schedule, and it will run this function. Grow text is the JavaScript function. It will call it, and it will call every 100 millisecond. That is the thing that is done by this particular statement. How to stop that repeated calling? Two ways. One, to close the window, and second option is call the clear interval. So call the clear interval and pass that reference where you have set the interval. Okay, with that understanding, we'll continue. Now what happens is, initially when the page is loaded, you will see this text hyphen growing and text hyphen shrinking. It is changing so quickly, you will not be able to see that. Immediately what happens, the this function gets called. Okay, grow text function gets called. So I will show you that. So initially you can see it's very difficult. Initially there are two texts, and then the function gets called. Okay, then this function gets called grow text because it completes the 100 millisecond. It calls the grow text. And what is the size? The initial size is 10. 10 less than 51, true. Then what it will do is, size is equal to size plus 1. Okay, size will become 10 plus 1, 11. And document get id my p1. What is the my p1? My p1 is the first paragraph. This is the first paragraph. This is the object it will get, and the content is text growing. That content is changed. That content is not changed. The style of that content is changed. That object dot style dot font size, we are setting it as 11. Now it is 11 pt, and we are changing the color. So you can say get element id my p1 dot style dot color, we are making red. And now we have to just show the text growing, right? The minute I refresh, you can see the second element has disappeared. Text shrinking has disappeared. Okay, so we have to make sure when we make this change, the second element visibility, we should make it as hidden. Document dot get element by id my p2. This is the second paragraph. Dot style dot visibility is equal to hidden. So this text will be hidden. It will not be shown. That is why you are seeing, okay, text growing every 100 millisecond it is growing. So the other text is invisible, that is hidden. Now, next iteration in the sense, this particular function gets called first time, the size becomes 11. Then after 100 millisecond, again this function gets called. Okay, grow text. Now 11 less than 51, true, it will make it as 12. Now the size will increase to 12. Then after 100 second, again this will get called. 12 less than 51, true, it will become 13, 14, 15, and so on. Let me increase this. This will become 1 second, which will be very slow. Now you can clearly see every 1 second. Now I have set it to 1000 millisecond. So you can see this change. Every time this function is getting called, it is increasing, right? So this value is made smaller according to the whatever the requirement that is given in your problem statement, that is 100 millisecond. Now, once it reaches the, let us say it reaches the size of 50. Once it reaches the size 50, then 50 less than, the 50 will get displayed, right? 50 is a valid number. 50 less than 51, that is true. It will come here. The size will become 51. Okay, and it will display, and then the size will becomes 51. 51 less than 51, that is false. Okay, that condition is false. Okay, so let me go back. Let's take size is equal to 49. It will grow from 10, 11, 12, so on. It will reach 49. 49 less than 51, it will come inside here, it will become 50, and then 50 less than 51, it will become 51. That will display. When it becomes 51, 51 less than 51, this is false condition. Then it will come to the else. In the else, what we are doing, we are clearing that interval. Clear interval my weight 1, and we are passing this my weight 1, right? This is passed here. You can see clear interval. What it will do is it will stop that repeated calling of the grow text. Then what we will do, we are using the same variable and set interval shrink text comma 100. Now we are calling a different function which is going to shrink the text, and repeatedly we are going to call every 100 millisecond. And after that, what I'm going to do, document dot get element by id my p1 dot style dot visibility is equal to hidden. Now first text, that is text growing, I made it hidden, means it is not visible. Second text, style, the font size, I will begin with font size, I'm setting it as 1 pt. And this is why I am doing is it will reduce the space of that. So the this my p1, that font size is reduced to 1 pt. And second, I'm getting the my pt my p2, that is the second paragraph, and setting the style dot visibility is equal to visible. You remember in the grow text we made it as hidden. Now we are making it as visible. We made the first paragraph hidden and second paragraph visible. And now what happens is this shrink text will get called repeatedly. And what is the shrink text? Now the size of the size element is having a value of 51. This function is called for the first time. 51 greater than 5, true. Size is equal to 51 minus 1, that is 50. Document dot get element by id my p2 dot style dot font size. This is 50. Now 51, it is reduced to 50 pt. And color, you can see we are setting it as a blue. This function will call, and it will make it as, okay. So when shrink calls, you see the first, this is the first time it called. Okay, that is when you see the 50 pt with the blue color. Then size will become 50. Then again string text after 100 millisecond it is called. Now size is 50. 50 greater than 5, true. Then size will become 50 minus 1, 49. The font is reduced to 49. then 48, so on. It will start shrinking. Once it reaches, let us say 6 greater than 5, then size is what? So 6 minus 1 is 5. Okay, it will display that particular size, 5 pt in blue. And now next to the value is 5 greater than 5, false. Once it is false, it will come here. Again I am calling the clear interval. Now I want to stop the repeated calling of the shrink text. Okay, so I call the clear interval and I pass the my weight 1. That is how that is the end of the that increasing and the shrinking. Now all the intervals will be stopped, and it will final display would be what? My p2 will be with the blue color, and it will stop at the size, font size of 5. So that is the end result you can see here. Okay, just this is the complete requirement of the according to the problem statement. If you want to loop it in the sense, you want to have an animation where continuously it is increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing. If you want to do that, you can try that. So what you have to do is, once you clear my shrink interval, what you have to do is you have to call the first one, grow text. Again set the interval, you set this particular interval and start to grow it again. Then it will go in a infinite loop. So if you want, I can show it here. So after clearing this, again I will set the interval, again I will calling the grow text. Okay, so and we have to make sure that my p1 is hidden. We have to make it as visible. Let's save it. Now it is growing, shrinking. Again it will grow, again it will shrink. Now it will go in a continuous loop. So now only way to stop this is I have to close the window. There is no other way to stop this. Okay, I hope you understood. If there are any questions, please let me know. We'll move to the next one. The fourth one is develop and demonstrate HTML5 file that includes JavaScript that uses the functions for the following problems. Number one parameter is a string, then output the position of the string of the leftmost vowel. Okay, position in the string of the leftmost vowel means if user gives the string, it should give the position of the leftmost vowel, a, e, I, o, u, any of that appears first vowel, its position should be displayed as the output. And if the given parameter is a number, then we have to reverse that, the number with its digits in the reverse order. If user gives the string input, I have to tell the output should be the first position of the leftmost vowel. If user gives the a number, then we have to display the number in the reverse order. That is the problem statement. First we will see the HTML. Let me close this window. Fourth program 4, number reverse vowel position. So this is the structure. Again you can see a table here, and there are 3 rows, 1 2 3 rows, and you can see clearly 3 columns are there. The first row is spanning 3 columns, the last row is spanning 3 columns. The first row has some text. Okay, this is a header. It has a vowel position or reverse number based on the input value. Second row has a first td, some text. Second one is a input of type text. and third TD is having a input text which is disabled. This is used to display whatever the actions the user is going to do. And the last row, third row, has a column span of 3 columns and one button. Okay, and when that button is clicked, whatever the actions you want to perform, that is, if it is a string, you will give the position of the first vowel. If it is a number, you are going to reverse the number. So what I will do is, first I will give a text. I will say SSA. Okay, SSA, then T E. So there are many. So first vowel occurs at the fourth position. So I will say click here. You can see vowel at the fourth position. Let us say I will give a number. I will give 4, 5, 6 and click. So you can see this number is reversed 654. Definitely we are using the on click event, and on click event we are getting this element by ID, this object dot value, and we are passing it. If it is a number, then we are going to use that logic to reverse a number. And if it is a text, then we are going to check character by character and we will compare with A, E, I, O, U. If it is true, then we will return that position. So this is a simple code. Okay. So first, this is the HTML document we have. First, we will see the HTML part. This is the body. Inside the body, I have a table, and how many rows are there? 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3 rows are there. How many TR we have? 1, 2, and 3. The first TR is, I am having the table header TH. Beginning of the TH, column span is 3. The column span is 3, and this is the closing TH, and this is the content. That is basically you are telling what is this table is. Okay, then next row I have 3 TD, 1, 2, and 3. The first TD is just some text input. Then second TD is a input control of type text, and ID is value 1 and initial value is 0. So when we loaded this page, you can see initial value is 0. That is where it is coming from, and closing of that TD. Then next data cell is having again input control element, type is text, and the ID is answer, value is space, and it is disabled. That is this element. This is the closing of the TR, and this is the beginning of the last row, and column span is 3, and what we have is a input control of type button. The value is click here, so that is what you are seeing on the button, and ID is btn1. On click event, we have said on click vowel or reverse function. So some name is given. This JavaScript function we are calling, and this is the close of the table, close of the body. First, we will see the style, table style. It will be inside the head section. Head section. I have a title, vowel position or reverse number. That is what is displayed in the title of that page. Style, this is the beginning, this is the end. If you see the style, table tdth, border 1 pixel, solid black, width is 50%, text alignment is center, all the text is aligned center. Then background color is light yellow. Border collapse, that is how you will see the nice lines as a table. Then table margin is auto, and for the input controls I have text align as right. For this and this, the text will be aligned as right. Then TD and TH, I have one more property, height I have specified 30 pixel. So height is 30 pixel. If you want to do that, you can do that, or you can leave that. That is the end of the styling. Then start the JavaScript. So inside the JavaScript, opening the script tag, and there should be a closing script tag inside the head. So this is closing script tag. Inside that, I have a this particular function vowel or reverse. The first thing I am going to do is I have to get the value what user has typed. So whatever is typed here, that value should be fetched when on the click event. So variable str is equal to document DOM object I'm going to use dot get element by id value 1. So this is the id. The id given to this is the value 1 dot value. So it will get that object dot value. So it will get the value. Now you have string, and on that you are calling a is nan. Is not a number. If it is a text, answer is true. If it is a number, answer is false. So is not a number. If it is a text, true, it is not a number, it will return true. If it is number, not a number, it will return a false. When it is a number, it will return a false. We are changing it to true. So if it is a true, means what? It is actually a number. User has given a number. Then we will come inside here. Let me say I will give some valid number 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, now I will click on the click here. When I click on the this click here button, what will happen? Go to the HTML. So this is the button, click here. When I click on click, we are going to call this function. So it will come to the function. Okay, this will come to this function. I will do the click. Now what happened? After that click, it called this function. It came inside the function get element by id value 1. It got this 2 3 4 5 6 number. So is nan not a number? 2 3 4 5 6, which is false because it is a number. So it is checking not a number. Is not a number, that is false. Then we are complementing that. It will become true. It will come here. I am declaring variables here. Number reverse is equal to 0, remainder is equal to 0, and I am parsing that input, that whatever the number we get, parse int means I am going to get the integer value. So you can see here, if I say 2 3 4 5 6.667, let me click here. Answer won't change because I am parsing the integer. I will get the integer part, that is 2 3 4 5 6, which is reversed. And after that, this is the logic. I believe everybody knows that we did it in the C programming, how to reverse a number. We reverse that number using this logic. And in REV, at the end of these loops, we are going to get each digit by digit and do this calculation. And at the end of this looping, I get the reverse number. Once I have the reverse number, after this while loop, REV will be having the reverse of whatever the user given number. Then we are going to set it to the document dot get element by id. Id is answer. That is this particular control. I will show you in the HTML. Answer, that is the text. This is id is answer, and it is disabled. That is nothing but this. This value is set with the REV. Okay. You can see that answer dot value is equal to REV. Okay. Now next scenario, whenever you give number, it will come to this part only, and it will show the reverse of the number. Let us say user has given a text. I will say BBCE. Okay, so the E is at the 4th position. Let me make it as 5th position. Okay, now this is the text. When we click on this button, again it is going to call that method, and we are going to read this. Okay, if I click on here, I get the answer as 5. So what will happen is it will call the method, then we access that value. Okay, using the document dot get element by id value 1 dot value. So this will return bbcre. Bbcre is returned to this. Then we check is not a number bbcre. That is true, it is not a number. Okay, then that true is complemented, it will become false. So when condition is false, it will come here. That is the else part. In the else part, what we are doing is string is equal to str, that whatever the value we got, we are calling the on the string object there is a function called to uppercase. So we will make the given string as uppercase. What will happen is capital B, capital B, capital C, capital R, capital E is stored in this str. Okay, now we loop through that string. Variable I is equal to 0, I less than str dot length. So str dot length will give the the length of the particular string. What is the length here? This is 5, 1 2 3 4 5. That length is returned here. I less than 5, I plus plus, and I'm going to fetch each of the character. Now at the 0th position, what I have? Str dot char at 0. Char at 0 is B. This is B. Now I am checking if condition. If B is equal to A, B is equal to E, B is equal to I, B is equal to O, B is equal to, all are false. Okay, and I don't have a false, so it will go to the next element. Next element is again B. Again, it will not compare with any of those. The next element is C. It will check the C. C is not equal to any of these. Then R, it is going to fetch. R is not equal to any of these values. Then I get the last character E. When we get the E is equal to A, no, E is equal to E, true. So this is our condition. When one value is true, then what is the true block I have? Break. We are breaking the loop at that time. Then I am checking whether I is less than str dot length. Why I am checking that? Suppose what if there is no vowel available, right? If the I value is less than the string length, definitely we found the vowel somewhere. If there was no vowel, then you have to say that no vowel was not present in the given text. If this I value is less than the string length, then what we will do? Document dot get element by id answer dot value. This value we set it with I plus 1. So here because we are starting from the 0, to give the exact position I will add a 1 value, I plus 1, that will give the position. In this example, we can see the vowel is present at the 5th position, that is the display. Let us say we don't have anything. So no vowel found. Now what happens is it will iterate through completely. Means whatever the length, suppose length is 5. Until 5 it doesn't find. Okay. When the index is 4, 4 is less than 5, true, then it will execute. Then the length will become 5. 5 less than 5, this is false, right? Now I value would be 5. Same condition will come here. I less than string length, that is 5 less than 5, false. Then what we will do? Document dot get element by id answer dot value, we print it as no vowel found. That is what you are seeing in this particular screen. Okay, I hope it is clear to everybody. If you have any questions, you can ask. Now we will move on to the last lab program, not last, the fifth one. The fifth one is design an XML document to store information about student in an engineering college affiliated to VTU. The information must include USN, name and name of the college, college program, year of joining and email ID. Make up sample data for 3 students, create a CSS style sheet and use it to display the document. So what we have to do is we have to create an XML document. XML is extended markup language. Using that we have to create a XML document and we have to display it on the browser using the CSS style. So using CSS style, we have to display that particular document. First, let me show you the output. Program 5 student info. So this is how it is displayed. Student information. They have asked you to show the student information of 3 students. So I have some random data here. This is the first student. USN, name, college, branch, year, email. Similarly, the same set is repeated here, and this is one more. So we have to use a XML document here, XML structure we have to use. I will show you the code. So this is a very simple lab program. I have HTML. Inside that I have head, and inside the head I have a title, student information. That is what you are seeing here, student information title. Then here I have used the style using a external file. That is, the style is stored in a separate file, and it is linked to the our HTML document. How to link it? Link rel style sheet href program 5.css. So I have a file called program.5.css, which is also in the same location. So when we discussed about this, whatever the location the program this CSS file is there, you have to use either absolute path or the relative path, and you have to give the correct folder. If you are keeping HTML and the CSS file in the same folder, you don't have to specify anything. It will just take it from the local. First it will check wherever the HTML is there, it will look there. If it finds it, it will take that particular file and it will link it. So I have that file. I will show you that file as well. Okay, this is the, we'll talk about that style. Now that is the end of the head. In the body section, I have student information H1. This is H1 student information, and then I will have the XML. So I have students tag. Okay, so these are the tags that we have created for to group all the students. I will have students. So you can see there is a S. Okay, this is the beginning of the student tag, and this is the end of the students tag. Inside the student tag, I have student. So inside the students, I have a student tag, and this is the beginning student tag, and this is the closing student tag. Then I have tag for the USN, beginning, closing, tag for the name, beginning and closing, tag for the college, beginning and closing, tag for the branch, beginning and closing, tag for the year, this is beginning and the ending tag, tag for the email, this is the beginning of the tag and this is the end of the tag. Such a student, I have three blocks are there. You can see this is the first student, this is second student, and this is third student. Okay, and for the styling of each of this tag, I'm using the CSS. Okay, let me show you without any kind of a style how this will be displayed. Let me say this program 5.css, I will make it as 51, just to make sure that there is no 51 file, it doesn't find the style. And I will refresh. Okay, without any kind of a styling. This is a header, so by default h1 has a style. That is what is displayed here. Rest of the information you can see it is displayed as is, right, without any kind of a styling. Whatever is specified here, USN colon this name colon name, so you can see USN, okay, name, right, everything goes side by side. Okay, we remember that elements will float to the right. The minute it's going to use the complete width, it will float to the next line until all the elements are displayed. So it will float here. This also width is completely taken up. Again, it will float back to the third line. That is how the information. So, but instead of displaying like this, we have applied the style using the CSS. So let me make it as program 5.css, and we will see the what is this CSS that is applied. For a student tag, these are the CSS rules. Display block. If you remember, if I make a block element, it will be displayed on its own line. Okay, I'm making this by default. It is not a block. That's why you are seeing everything is shown on the same line. All the width is used up, and it will flow to the next line. So I am making it as a block. So all of them are a block. Means they are going to be displayed on their own line. Then margin from the top 10 pixel and color navy. So this is for the a student. Then USN display block, margin left 20 pixel, font size 14 pt, color red. Let me put this reload. Okay, now USN, that margin for the student, these are getting overridden. Okay, block is there, color is getting overridden in all the elements, and margin 10 pixels. So this is the margin from the top. We have 10 pixel. Let me increase it to 20 so that you will understand. So you can see the okay, margin has increased for everywhere. If you want to make it more visible, I made it as 50. Then you can see all the margins for the student has increased. So whatever is appropriate, you can set that. Then that is the property that is set to the student element. For the USN element, displays block, margin from the left 20 pixel. So this is the margin from the left 20 pixel, and font size is 14 pt, color is red. So if I change it to, instead of 20 pixel, if I make it as 70 pixel and re-display, so you can see all the USNs from margin from the left has been increased. So they are not in order. For everything, margin is, left is set as same. That is how they are showing up in the same line. And color name same, display block, margin left 20 pixel, font size is 14, color is blue. So name, you can see it is blue, and the college, rest of the things are same, color is maroon. Branch, rest of the things are same, color is purple. Branch, you can see purple, and ear is green. Ear is green. And last one, email is in blue. Email is in blue. So that is how it is displayed. So for this particular fifth program, you need to have the program 5.css file, or whatever the name you give here. Okay, that file should be present at the appropriate location. It is better to keep them together, like HTML and HTML, CSS file together, so it will be easily able to get that particular file.